We are back for some F1 25 game news, and today the brand new Breaking Point trailer dropped, and also in this video the main thing I want to talk about is a Reddit post, an Ask Me Anything Q&A with the game devs, which essentially is going to help shine some light on the game and things to come in the future. So guys, we're going to jump into it, break it all down. We're going to start out though with Breaking Point 3. Now interestingly, so far we've had deep dives for the F1 25 game focused on my team and then authenticity and customization, but we don't have a deep dive for Breaking Point. We essentially just have a trailer. Now we'll talk about that in just a bit. First off, we're going to start out with the article. Now, just a quick recap as it says in this article, okay? So the story so far, this is F1's story mode, you know, like a nice kind of single player experience, story mode like many other games or niches that you get. This is the F1 version of it. So essentially its roots go back to F1 2019 when the first few characters were put into place, but Breaking Point began and it kind of got fleshed out in F1 2021. It offered players the opportunity to adopt the role of Aiden Jackson, who was an F1 rookie at the time, looking to make a name for himself in Formula 1, but he was met with many challenges along the way, including a ruthless rival, Devon Butler, of course we know all about. Now in F1 23, it focused on the 22 and 23 seasons and the introduction of the fictional team Connosport. In other words, Devon Butler, big money backing from his father, putting his money where his mouth is and essentially making a team all around him. Familiar faces returned alongside a new protagonist, Callie Mayer, the first woman to win the F2 championship. The once infamous Devon Butler has his perspective of the sport turned upside down, opening up a spot for Callie's break into Formula 1. As we know, Devon had issues, as in physical issues, which basically made him unable to race in Formula 1, and he got replaced by Callie Mayer, and she, of course, makes her debut in the sport. So, what's next? In F1 25, we're shaking things up once again, as you'll play out multiple perspectives of a brand new story. No longer a Minnows team, Connosport, under new ownership of Davidoff Butler, Devon's father, as we know, find themselves fighting against the best on the grid during the 2024 season, with talent and determination on their side. However, in the wake of a dramatic event, which we've seen before, they've kind of teased what this could be. There is something that happens, a plot line of sorts, which basically puts a swerve on the storyline, could change things. Will you have what it takes to steer Connosport to the championship glory in 2025? So, interestingly, there's a bit of a preview here. So it says it's focused on fighting the best in the 2024 season, but it says, can we take them to glory in 2025? So does that mean the dramatic event happens in 24, which, basically leads to not winning the championship or losing out, and then eventually have to try and do it in 25. That's kind of what I'm guessing is the storyline here. Through state-of-the-art motion, captured cutscenes, heart-stopping on-track gameplay, and rebalanced difficulty options that appeal to novice and veteran players, this story is yours to play. Now, I do want to focus on this a little bit. We've had a bit more insight from Arava and also just a bit more from, things we've heard. Essentially, what used to be the hardest difficulty setting in the previous Breaking Point 2 on F1 23, now has an additional difficulty added. So what used to be the hardest before is now the second from hardest. So there's now an extra one added for people like me. So that makes me very excited. As we know, once you've finished the story, you can develop Connosport's legacy beyond Breaking Point with the team and drivers available for selection in the revamped My Team mode. Plus, for driver career, you have the choice whether or not to add them as an 11th team on the grid fighting for glory themselves. So that's everything on the article. So we're now going to delve into the trailer. Now, before we jump into it, I want to note again, everything regarding Breaking Point historically has had a lot more kind of post editing, filters, effects added onto it. It says at the bottom of the screen, cinematics and game engine footage. So basically a mix of, special effects and the actual game itself with the revamped engine and visuals. Not all images appear in game. So bear in mind, it's going to look a lot nicer, better than what we actually play as the final product. Now, I'm going to play with the sound because we need to listen to what they have to say. The plot lines are important. We'll pause along the way and basically make our comments if need be.
What are you planning?
I'm just looking out for my family.
Final day of pre-season testing here.
Hear that? Final day of pre-season testing. There was a hint that could be in the game It seems though, however, we're only getting it in Breaking Point, which is a big shame, but hopefully we're maybe opening the door to get that in the future.
Here in Bahrain.
How are we looking? We're looking strong, Callie. We can start to push now, so I want you to put some pressure on the Red Bulls, okay?
First look at the revamped Bahrain. Special effects aside, you can really see the difference here with the LiDAR or LiDAR scan Bahrain, which I'm very excited about. This track needed a bit of a refresh, so we're finally going to get that. Also, first look at the Connor Sport car, Kelly Mayer behind the controls. Yeah, let's keep it rolling.
Each of you.
Characters, again, we're getting that depth. So we've got Aiden Jackson, Kelly Mayer, and then of course Davidoff, Butler, and Devon as well. So keen to see what Devon's role is here, considering he had to basically forfeit racing in F1.
He's going to have to step it up.
I really thought he knew what he was doing. Why would he risk so much?
We don't have time.
Potential issues. I believe Callie and Devon are brothers or sisters. Maybe I'm making that up. I swear they were related, but I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments.
To rest on our laurels.
He risks so much.
We don't have time to rest on our laurels.
If you look at Davidoff there, they made a big thing about the NVIDIA audio to face tech. I'm not too sure if you look at Davidoff's speaking again.
He knew what he was doing. Why would he risk so much?
We don't have time to rest on our laurels.
He used to be a maverick, Dev. What happened?
Ooh, corporate Devon Butler. Very interesting. Potentially working like his dad, with his dad, or replacing his dad. Who knows? But, you know, the old man might be working with or against or being replaced by his son, who's now suit and tie.
Threatening my career. Now why does that feel familiar?
You can't play a butler.
I wasn't. I'm not trying to.
You know, I'd sacrifice so much for Formula One.
Kasper Ackermann. He was, of course, team principal. I believe he's on his holidays, but maybe he's needed back. Maybe Devon's asking for a favour. It does feel like maybe Devon is going to run things, but maybe he's losing control a little bit of his drivers and needs some veteran advice.
Motorsports aren't doing enough here.
What is it?
You don't beat Red Bull by copying them.
And there's contact and into the gravel.
Now, that specifically, I believe, is the clip we saw in the other trailer where I believe a Connor Sport car and a Red Bull come together at Spain Turn 1. It seems like it's Red Bull v Connor Sport in 2024. That's my guess. That's the big event that is being referenced here. And there's obviously a big knock-on effect or a big shift or something happens because of that. Either way, you hear Devon mention how we don't have to copy Red Bull, or we don't copy Red Bull to beat them. We have to try and basically think of our own way of, innovating to beat them. So, again, bit of an insight for sure.
Kelly Mayer makes history.
I think Connor Sport needs a change of direction.
Okay, so Kelly Mayer makes history. There isn't too much to go off. The key takeaway for me really here is all the clips of the revamped Bahrain, which, if you look at the trailer at all points, important to note here, the lack of sponsor boards. That is the pre-season testing setting. You can see there the gantry has nothing on it. So also time of day, it's in the evening, which you don't really race at that time. So it's probably end of pre-season testing evening shift. So that's Breaking Point. Look, I'll be honest, I'm excited. Okay, not like super over the top excited, but just it's something new, something fresh. I actually didn't half mind F1 23 Breaking Point 2, the storyline. It was just too easy. So I hope the new difficulty in this one will really kind of put that final lick of paint to be able to really enjoy that as someone who is a faster player than usual and wants a bit more of a challenge. Now, using some still frames, as for my prediction, I think this is 24. This is the first season. I think everyone's trying to find their role and where they fit in. And then my gut is that Davidoff, the father, steps down. And for 2025, I think Devon gets suited up, suit and tie, serious face on, serious business. And I think he takes the reins and probably leans on a little bit of help from Kasper Ackermann, who at this point has been gone for 24 and part of the 25 season. So that's my prediction. Now, here we are then on Reddit. Not something I particularly use, but this is an F125 Ask Me Anything number 2. So there has been one before with the Cody's dev team on authenticity and customization and more. So, interestingly, this is essentially a bit of an insight. Gavin Cooper is a creative director, is giving us a bit of an idea, a bit of an insight into what's behind the scenes. Now for this one, there's a set of guidelines and topics. Now the questions can only be about these topics, and it's reverse tracks, LiDAR tracks, visual improvements, path tracing, decalibrator, F1 world changes, collaborative play, audio, radios, and new voice-over talent, vehicle handling improvements, and AI improvements. The bottom two, not something we've heard much about. Of course, we heard about that in the last deep dive, not in the actual deep dive trailer itself, but in the press briefing article, which I kind of snuck in there at the bottom in the fine print. If you haven't seen it, go check it out, guys, on screen now. Now, to be fair, on this thread, there's a lot of questions, maybe things that can be relevant to you. Like, for example, did you finally make the cutscenes skippable in career? Again, not something I particularly care about, but, is there. You get a full detailed response in terms of, what they're thinking. Also, are lapped cars allowed to unlap during a safety car period? No response to that one, which is a shame, but that's something I would like to see happen. Then we have relating to reverse tracks. Does the implementation of them mean there are no plans to have tracks outside of the current year's calendar? Now, basically, this gets answered in another post. Now, the post Gavin links to this one. Is Portimao coming back? And he answered, not this year, so no Portimao in F125. He does say, for context, I think sometimes people assume that if something's been in the game before, it should be in the game forever. Why get rid of it? Right? And he basically now gives a detailed explanation why that's been the case. Now he says licensed content is rarely licensed forever. He says there's an ongoing negotiation every year to allow us to continue using it, and the time and effort of pursuing those negotiations have to be balanced against the rest of what we want to deliver that year, and also has to bear in mind how much value they deliver for players. So essentially, he notes bonus tracks weren't really played with that much compared to the main tracks anymore. So why waste money on that resource when they can invest it elsewhere? He does say we're very well aware that more circuits are still some of the best value content we can deliver. And while we try to innovate and deliver that content in the shorter term, hence the reverse tracks, the conversation about exploring the use of other tracks is one we'll continue to pursue on a year-to-year basis. However, there are interesting things regarding tracks and calendar. So for example, if we move on from the last post and move on to this one, someone says, regarding the customization changes, they really enjoy them, but what about calendar customization in career mode? And Gavin basically says, we're keen to explore it. It's been a really positive development that the opportunity to do so has been opened up by us relatively recently. I just don't have any kind of timescale that I can give you right now. Now, a bit further down it says, the assumption that tracks had to be played in a calendar order is a stipulation that was embedded in the game a long time ago, and that assumption has had a lot of stuff built on top of it over the years. That doesn't mean we don't want or can't change it, but the timing of the opportunity came too late for F125, so they're basically hinting at customizable calendars are going to be on the way very soon. Maybe not F125, maybe F126, which would be a massive change. Now, as we've kind of seen, through the cracks, someone here blog mentioned flicking the wheel being less effective in this game. Care to elaborate? And in this case, James Brallant, who I have close contact with, is in the responses here, essentially saying, more aggressive driving styles in race conditions will lead to faster tyre wear, so sharp steering inputs into corners that may have been more meta in F124 won't be as effective over the distance of a race. So essentially confirmed it's still in the game and might still work in, let's say, a qualifying scenario, but not in the race, which is a bit disappointing. Confirmation they're going to follow the exact same pattern regarding adding the F2 roster later on in the year with a patch, so nothing changing on that front. Interestingly, regarding reverse tracks, This person says, will it be possible to run both the regular and the reverse version of a track in the second season so we can get an Austrian-Styrian GP situation, or are we forced to pick one or the other? Gavin says you can schedule both versions of the circuit in the same season, so you can have a double header, one forwards, one backwards. So that is very good, and yeah, I actually am surprised they've done that. So fair play, that's exactly what you want from those reverse tracks. So here is one that was buried quite deep, but very interesting, and I thought you guys might want to hear this. So, very excited about LiDAR scanned tracks. Do you guys plan on scanning other tracks in the near future? If so, which ones? Gavin says, we've got the scan data from all of the 24 seasons races. So they have all 24 tracks LiDAR scanned, which is very interesting, okay? One thing is having the LiDAR scan, you know, the actual files of that scan, but it's another thing to basically convert all of that data into gameplay form, into F1, all the environment, fleshing it out, you know, painting it, structuring it in 3D, importing into the game basically. That's a whole, you know, different long process, but they've got all the data on files, you know, in the HQ. He says this time out we focused on the early tracks in the calendar because it takes a certain amount of time after getting the data to work up the track, and so we lean more towards the ones that will give us the most time to deliver the updates in time for F1 25. In other words, a few changes this year have happened, especially with sponsors of course around F1, and getting those initial circuits updated on the calendar was their main priority. At this point we have all the data from the remainder of the tracks, so any future updates we can be a bit pickier about which ones we think are most deserving of an update. So obviously I've kind of lent my voice to this in Discord internally, but personally I want to see Mexico, Brazil more than anything, then Monza, Canada and probably Monaco, maybe Baku as well. But for me, Mexico, Brazil and Monza, those three are desperately in need of an update, especially because Mexico is so wrong. But how much further we go with LiDAR will be based on what we think players want. Obviously LiDAR is way up there, but we're already hearing players saying they want more reverse tracks, which is true. I want more. You know, 3 out of 24 is quite a short number. I appreciate it takes a lot of work to make it happen, but I think once we get our hands on, I think we're all going to want more reverse tracks, because basically it's going to really help deepen the pool of circuits and make it much more fun and playable for all of us regarding the F1 game. He does say we've got at least one entirely new track coming in Madrid, of course, in the 26th season, so they're going to now turn their focus to work on that very soon. And who knows what else the real sport might throw at us. So what they're hinting at here is basically they might plan to deliver 4 or 5 track updates, but if a Madrid comes on the way and then other things happen, you know, get announced in the news or updates happen, they're going to have to basically focus on those things first before doing the LiDAR updates to other existing tracks. He does note, and we obviously hear the players saying they want other historical tracks. That's something we'd love to be able to offer or deliver on if the opportunity presented itself. But it's about how we balance our resource against those different priorities. We can't really say at this point, but it's nice to have options. So again, not shying away from the fact that they know we want classic tracks. So again, kind of opening that door a little bit. Anyway, there's a ton more comments here. You can even scroll down. There's a lot of stuff to delve into if you guys want to take some time. Also, submit some questions of your own. I thought I'd give you guys a bit of an insight. So down below, you're going to have the link so you guys can go check it out. Please respect the rules and do exactly what they say, and don't be an idiot. Just, you know, read the rules and then ask a fair question. There'll be more updates coming soon. Anyway, that's going to be it, guys, for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. We've now seen my team, we've now seen the customization options, the decal editor, we've now also seen Breaking Point, and also pretty much everything this game has in store. Personally, genuinely, and I mean this, and I'm not, you know, doing PR here, I'm actually most looking forward to the reverse tracks. I really want to get my hands on that because that's something that's fresh, brand new, and I think could really transform the experience of the F1 game. So I can't wait to do some racing on reverse circuit. So yeah, guys, in the meantime, hope you enjoyed. Leave a like on the video, subscribe for more daily F1 content and more F1 25 content. When we get exclusive early access hands-on very, very soon, I'll have some very nice gameplay for you guys arriving on the channel. In the meantime, a massive shout out to my channel members. Check out the 2 videos on your screen. Also, guys, if you want to see more content from me regarding F1 25, and I'll see you in my next one very soon. Take care, and let's go back from me.